4AG. 1,587 cc's of displacement, 77 millimeters of stroke, and a bore of 81 millimeters. This particular model from MR2 made about 112 horsepower. If you didn't know, I bought this engine in December with the intent of putting it into my AE86, and I found this file online to print out this manifold. This is printed out of carbon fiber nylon, and planning on using these ITBs from a CBR 1000.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
Okay, before we put this in, we gotta check the compression and see how low the compression is. Because when I bought this, I was told it had low compression. Before we do all that, probably take out these leaves. Grab your vacuum hose, turn on your vacuum, and suck it all up. Don't want that to fall in. Turn off your vacuum. And that's a little better. Just looking at the motor, we know it's a 7 rib because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ribs to reinforce it. This motor came out of an MR2. Usually know it's a front wheel drive motor if the distributor cap has the points pointing up. And never realized it. This has an oil cooler, and usually it connects straight to there, but this has a hard line going over. And looking a little deeper, you can see the VIN number, JT2AW1503 something something. That's a 4A and a part number here. And we can see these Dorman freeze plugs that have been replaced. As you can see, a bunch of coolant that's dried up here. That was probably leaking forever. So, I mean, yeah, that's crusty. Another freeze plug there that's been replaced. It has a Dayco timing belt, so that's not OEM. Doesn't look cracked. You can see the freeze plugs on the intake side has been replaced also. You put on the rear wheel drive engine mounts. This is a front wheel drive engine mount. We can see this front main seal has been spewing out. And then if you ever want to know the condition of a motor, usually take off the oil cap. Make sure there's no gunky green coolant gooey stuff in there. And if it is smelling like burnt old oil that you see build up right there, they probably didn't change the oil much. A little bit of sludge, but kind of golden brown. Really can't do a compression test unless we have a starter bolted up, but to bolt on the starter, you need a bell housing or transmission. Luckily, Bombay Garage has loaned me this nice new bell housing that I'm getting my greasy fingerprints on. So I can put this on and get a starter and get this thing cranking. And before putting on the bell housing, these dowel pins, which help align the actual bell housing to the engine, were kind of marred up, like someone took vice grips to them. So I'm just going to get a file and, file them back down. Look at that. Even this bell housing, it says 4AG. I mean, you could use a 4AC bell housing also. The only problem is with the 4AC bell housing, the clutch lave is on the opposite side. Because this is on the intake side. It's usually on the exhaust side, and the problem with that is you have the clutch line and you have exhaust manifold potentially boiling your clutch fluid or burning your line. Give it a little tap. Okay. My buddy Joe gave me a bunch of parts for working on his car. So I have this 4AG starter or 4AC. I think they're the same. Maybe not. No. Okay, this doesn't fit because I looked up the part number. Fuji Heavy Industries. Any guesses? It's for a Subaru Legacy. It's a Subaru starter. I know where I could borrow a starter. Don't be so negative because I feel like we've made a connection and I've done everything in my power. This being power. That was dumb. Okay, got the bell housing bolted up. Okay, let's try this again. We're making contact with the flywheel. Okay, we're either going to mess this up or not mess this up. Cables are hot. Bolt for the engine mount. And then this is the starter, this is the solenoid. Once you apply power to the solenoid, it will make contact with the plunger to turn over the starter. So if I only have positive to the solenoid, you're gonna hear that. Now if I have power to the starter, we turn over to the solenoid. Let's hold this engine. It's working. Starter's kind of wobbling. Oh, and I literally just shimmed it with some shims. Cylinder 1. No compression. Let's check number 2 dry. Number 3 dry. Oh. 70. Reset that. Hit it again. About 70. And I know what people will say, you have to open the throttle. Well, the injector ports are open and that's literally reading 00, 70, 70. A lot of times when people are in denial, they'll get another compression tester just because they can't believe it. Obviously my battery died, which I have on a trickle charger. So we're gonna use this battery so we could kill this battery. We left off at 3. Well, we're gonna start over and do it in reverse. Let's start 4, 3, 2, 1. Survey says about 65. Okay, that one's a little better. 75. 0. Okay, so I have some 1030 oil here. We're just going to drop oil in each of the cylinders, and if we get a spike in compression, the rings are bad. If there's no change, maybe the valve's not seating. Repeat the test. Cylinder number 1. Nothing. Maybe a valve is burned up. Still 0. That went up to 110 wet, which is pretty good. 130 has more compression than my beams. Well, boys, what we have here is a paperweight. I would have compression tested this sooner, but I barely got the bell housing from Bombay. Thank you, Bombay. So now we know we need to tear apart this motor, which I really don't want to do, but I know you guys want me to do it. All right, boys and girls, you're probably wondering what all these numbers mean. Let me give you the breakdown. First compression, 0. Second test, 0. Wet, 0. N, F, G. Not for going. Number 2, 0. Second number 2, 0. Wet number 2, 0. No fucking good. Cylinder number 3, 70, 80, and then wet was 110. I would call this okay. The whole motor was like this, I would rock it. And then number 4, 70, 65, and 130, which was the highest number. I would also call this okay. This side is okay. This side is not for going. I also could do a leak down test, but it's 0. This is gonna need to come apart anyway. That's why instead of going 4AG, we literally have 2 beams sitting right here. You know, I could go with the 3S motor, but I already have 2 cars that are powered with a 3S motor. I already have a dumb drifty car. I was gonna try to stick to this, but this is gonna get really expensive. And you know me, I don't like spending money. This was gonna be a budget build. Probably have less than $1,000 invested in this car, including the price of the car. And people are telling me, get rid of the 4AC, get rid of the automatic transmission. Well, this thing has been pretty reliable. So it's like, why take a perfectly good running car and ruin it? Still got to put my car back together. Okay, well, that's it for today. We're just going to put beams in this thing because this thing's junk.